Hi, it's Kithran here, and, well, location may look familiar from the last video. Yep, we're still at Starfleet Academy. Now, I know the title said weapons, but first of all, one little bonus I've found out about in the Zen store. If you go to duty officers, you can buy duty officers. Now, I'm not here suggesting buying them, because if you look here, notice it says available. Can be claimed once per character, and it doesn't have a price because it's a special free promotion. So you hit claim, and you see we've got 4 new duty officers. If we go into our duty officer roster, and look in security, we've got Beckett Mariner, Brad Boimler, Rutherford, and down in medical, Tendi. So the 4 main characters from Lower Decks, and as you can tell, their actual images are the cartoon ones rather than the in-game ones. Now, as they're only duty officers, you can't really see them, but might as well take advantage of it. And while I'm here, I'll quickly oh, I can even send Boimler on a mission. Excellent. That's going to be a disaster, I'm sure. And there you go, that's everyone sent off. Now, we're going to talk about weapons here. If I hit the inventory, and, well, unfortunately I've not got much in the way of weapons. I've got a phaser pistol I've picked up somewhere. If I look at my ship, it's got a plasma beam array, a photon torpedo launcher, another photon torpedo launcher, and a phaser beam array. Now, this is a prime example of what happens early on. And to be honest, at this sort of level, it isn't a problem. You can just get by just picking up and using the things that drop. You don't need to worry about buying stuff. You don't need to worry about sort of crafting it or using the exchange or anything like that. At lower levels, and probably up to about 60, 65, you can get away with just using what you found. Admittedly, at higher levels, you need to use it sensibly. And by that, what do I mean? Well, it's less relevant on the small ship again, but on larger ships you'll have more weapon slots and you'll have more console slots. And console slots are what can boost your weapons. Now, what tactical console have I got? Okay, good example here. You can get consoles that boost a type of weapon, and you get consoles that can boost the damage type of a weapon. You'll get a bigger boost from damage type boosts. So, for example, this is a Mark II console, it gives 7.5% to phaser damage. You might get, I don't know the exact numbers, but it might only be able to get up to, say, 5% for beams. Now, what does this mean? Well, what this means in terms of equipping my ship, this phaser beam array, that's good, because that's going to be getting a boost because it's a phaser. Photon torpedo, not going to be boosted. Photon torpedo, not going to be boosted. Plasma beam array, that isn't going to get boosted either. So we've got that console, and it's a reasonable console early on, but it's only boosting one of the 4 weapons. So that's the first thing when it comes to weapons. You want to make sure that the actual damage type of the weapons is consistent. Generally, later on as well, you'll have either all beams with maybe a torpedo launcher, or all cannons of some sort with maybe a torpedo launcher. In this case, it's only got cannons. It's not an escort. Federation cruisers, especially the lower level ones, can't fit cannons anyway, or dual cannons anyway, which are the ones you want to go for. Differences between them. Beam arrays, notice this, it's got a 250-degree targeting arc. And the same with this. Basically, it says arc, but actually think of it a cone, because you're fighting in 3 dimensions. A dual heavy cannon of some sort, be it phaser, plasma, whatever, that will just have a 45-degree cone. So for those, you tend to have fast manoeuvrable ships, a bit like the Defiant, but they're basically the highest sort of damage per weapon with those. Beam arrays can do more damage if you're a big slow ship that can't turn that fast, because they've got that far wider arc that they can actually hit in. So the fact that they can't turn to point directly at the target is less of an issue. So that's the first thing, is you want to make sure the damage type is the same, and the second thing is you want to keep the actual weapon types the same. So you either go for beams or you go for cannons. Within that, with beams, you've got beam arrays, which are the very wide 250-degree arc. There's banks, which are slightly narrow arc, but they do more damage per hit. And then with the cannons, you've got cannons, dual cannons, and dual heavy cannons. Normal cannons, I don't think anyone uses. Dual cannons have a 90-degree arc, and the dual heavy cannons have a 45-degree arc. The other thing with cannons is turrets, which have a 360-degree arc, tend to be count as cannons as well. And the typical sort of build with cannons is you have lots of cannons in the front, and in the back you have all turrets. What that means is someone's chasing you, the turrets are doing a bit of damage, and when you're just going head on towards it, not only have you got your main forward firing cannons or heavy cannons firing, but you also got those turrets, because they've got the 360-degree arc, they're also firing forward. So that's what you do with the ship. You make sure that the weapon damage types and the actual weapon types are consistent. Then obviously you fit consoles that complement what you fitted. So ideally consoles that boost the damage type, but if necessary just consoles that boost the weapon type, be it cannons or beams. I'm not going to cover torpedoes because, I'll be honest, I don't really know how they work. I mean, you sort of hit a button and they fire, but I've never played with a proper torpedo build, so I don't know the best way to be utilising it. I won't pretend otherwise. So that's the actual fittings of the ship, but there's another part of it as well. Now if you go to stations, you'll see what officers you've got on the ship. Now at low levels you're a small ship, so basically you've got, on this case of this ship, I've got one engineer slot, which is a lieutenant slot, so that means he's got two abilities as a bridge officer, the level one, the ensign level, and the lieutenant one. The next one would be lieutenant commander, and the final one would be commander. Again, obviously the bigger ships, you have higher levels available for your bridge officers. But basically I've got two engineering slots, one's a lieutenant, one's an ensign, and then a single tactical and a single science that are both ensign. Now you want to look at the officers you've got there. So let's start with Eliza Flores. Look at her skills. So everyone starts with skills by default, and Eliza Flores starts with torpedoes high yield, beam overload 2, torpedoes spread 3, and attack pattern omega 3. Now in case of both beams and cannons, there's two abilities. There's beam fire at will, which, as you see here, lets you make multiple attacks. Multiple targets rather. Now if we look at the second level, we should see cannon scatter volley level 1, which is the cannon equivalent. Now that's one thing you notice here. This is a lieutenant skill. Beam overload 2, cannon scatter volley 1, i.e. to be making use of, well, either of the cannon skills, either rapid fire or scatter volley, you need to have at least a lieutenancy for the tactical officer on your ship. But beam fire at will and cannon scatter volley are the fire at multiple targets at once, and you get more damage by doing that. So scatter volley is 3 targets, fire at will, 5 attacks. 2 random targets per pulse. The other sort of pair of abilities are beam overload and cannon rapid fire. These are single targets. Cannon rapid fire increases the attack rate. Beam overload actually decreases the attack rate, but increases the damage by a lot. So you're doing 3.5 times the damage with each shot, but you're only shooting half as fast with that. But once you've got your weapons on your ship, you want to make sure that your tactical officer especially early on, has got abilities that can make use of it. Now, as you see, Flores here has only got Torpedo's High Yield 1. But that can be solved. If we beam up to a space dock, and there's a similar location with the Romulans and with the Klingons, but in this case, because I was at Starfleet Academy and I'm a Starfleet character, it makes most sense for me to go to a space dock. So you come up to a space dock and you go round as if you're going to go and see the Admiral around here. And instead you just drop down here. Eee, splat. And there's this guy here, and as he says up there, he will help you train your bridge officers. You go to bridge officer training, store, and this is one of the exceptions to buying stuff early on. For a start, the actual costs are very low, and secondly, you're probably going to be, where you're switching your ship, you're going to be keeping your bridge officers a lot longer. So it's worthwhile investing on them if they've got things that you want to learn. So now I've bought that beams fire at will, and I've got the option to learn it. So I'm going to just hit learn. It will cost a bit of expertise. I'll just okay that so we've learnt it. Yep, you see we've learnt it. I can now click on that and it changes what's there. Now this is one important thing. We've changed the ability here, but you need to select the station and you need to tell it to reload the default to update based on that skill you just picked up. But there, now that Eliza's got ability that boosts beams. Now somewhere here, if we look at progress, there we go. We've got expertise. Basically, as well as earning experience, you also get expertise. And expertise is used for things like, well, as you just saw, training new skills to your bridge officers, promoting your bridge officers. So if I go into Eliza, I can promote, and it will cost 1100 expertise. So she's now a lieutenant. She still only counts as a ensign there because the actual, effectively the console on the ship that she sat at is only sophisticated enough to require an ensign. It's a bit like you've got the bridge crew of the Enterprise, but they're stuck on a little garbage scow. It's a case of, you know, Worf knows how to do lots with a tactical console, but the ship ain't got the abilities. It's just got a simple shield that he can look after, or whatever. So that's some of the basics on what you can do with weapons. Like I say, you can just get by with just chucking on random stuff, but as you get higher, you want to start concentrating at least with the stuff you're picking up and being consistent rather than just chucking it on just because, oh, that looks shiny. When it does come to upgrading it as well, early on especially, the mark plays quite a big part in how much damage you do. That's one reason why I've got, well, this is probably a good example. So I've got a plasma beam array, Mark IV. It's got a blue one, so it's got a couple of abilities. In this case, the abilities are just both pluses to accuracy, so it doesn't really matter for this comparison, but it's 172.5 DPS compared to the phaser, which is at 142 DPS. Now I don't know, that may already include that 7.5 buff as well. So as you can see, there's a big difference there between the numbers, between the marks, the damage done with that increase in mark. Again, at this level, it's not worth probably going, oh, that's a very rare item, I'll keep that. Once it's sort of 2 or 3 marks behind everything else, you're probably going to want to replace it. And I will say here as well, beware of the trap of the Harpang torpedo. You'll know it when you see it. It has very good damage rating, but it's got a very slow rate of fire. The normal photon torpedo is about 6 seconds. The Harpang torpedo is about 18. So beware of that, I will say. But that's probably a good point to leave it. I can head out and have a look at Earth in the background. Well, for me, now he's facing that way, the foreground, and I'll say farewell. Hopefully, I'll see you on a stream soon. Catch you later.